Buonasera a tutti, benvenuti alla casa italiana zerilli-marimò della New York University. My name is Stefano Albertini. I'm the director of the casa. You can still chat while I do this thing. Then it's important that you keep silent during the movie. And we are delighted to have a chance to present the screening of Stile Alberto, a documentary that you will hear, dedicated to Alberto Arbasino, one of the most interesting, provocative, challenging intellectuals of the post-war period in Italy, and not really totally understood, neither in Italy and much less abroad. And I think he deserved this chance that our friends are giving to him with this documentary to be brought back to the center of the attention of the intellectual community and the community at large. And especially here in New York, I was just understanding the relationship that he had with America, and we will talk also about that. So it's a way for us to bring back an intellectual that was very unusual, very unconventional, and maybe because of that, he did not have the popular fame that other intellectuals had. And we are delighted to be able to do that with this film tonight. But to introduce our guests from Italy, I would like to call to the podium my colleague and friend, Professor Ara Merjan. Professor Merjan is a professor of art history and Italian studies here in our department. He wrote about De Chirico, Pasolini, and much more. One of his interests is also cinema. And we have done thousands of activities and initiatives with him, including, and I'm very proud of that, La Pasolinei, we called it. That was 2 weeks of events dedicated to Pasolini just this past fall, that included screening, theatrical performances, an exhibit, and much more. It's a pleasure and a delight to collaborate with Ara, even if he's a lot of work, because he's constantly coming up with ideas that are brilliant, and we cannot say no, like this one, and we're very grateful to Professor Ara Merjan. Ara.
Thank you, Stefano. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome to New York and to the Casa Italiana our two directors. First, Michele Masneri, who is an Italian journalist, essayist, and novelist, born in Brescia and based between Rome and Milan. He writes on culture and society for Il Foglio and curates the architecture and design page Terrazzo. From 2016 to 2018, he served as the paper's Silicon Valley correspondent, reporting on tech, power, and contemporary life. Timely topics. His narrative nonfiction account of that period, Steve Jobs Doesn't Live Here Anymore, was published in 2020 by Adelphi. The same publishing house which put out his novel Paradiso in 2024. His other books include Stile Alberto, devoted to Alberto Arbasino, on which tonight's featured film is based, and which was produced by Rai Documentari and Luca Guadagnino. For TV, he's written The Missing Piece, a documentary on Edoardo Agnelli, and has received major awards for journalism and writing, including the Spontorno Prize for Journalism and the Cortina d'Ampezzo Prize for Literature. Antongiulio Panizzi is a documentary director, producer, and writer based in Rome. He is based on research and investigation throughout Italy and the world. Indeed, his work has been featured on projects that have been seen on Netflix, Amazon Prime, BBC World, Discovery, Sky Classics, and of course, Italy's Rai. As director, Antongiulio has created several award-winning feature documentaries, most recently, and dear to myself and many in the audience, the hybrid film Bear Week Diaries, as well as The Girl in the Fountain about Anita Ekberg, featuring Monica Bellucci, and My Way, The Rise and Fall of Silvio Berlusconi. His extensive work in TV includes the award-winning primetime show on Rai 3, Gaia, which he directed, while on the scripted side, he's written several feature films and critically acclaimed short films, including Recycle. His mixed media theater piece, Horatio, actually premiered at New York's Here Theater several years back. And following the film, which is about an hour, we're also thrilled to welcome back to the Casa someone with whom many of you are very familiar and perhaps needs no introduction here, Professor Antonio Monda, who is Associate Professor in the Tisch School of Film and Television and a tireless contributor not only to that program, but to the university's wider featuring of Italian culture, film, and a number of other genres. So after the film, we'll have a brief discussion between them, a Q&A, which will open up to the audience. So everyone, please enjoy the film.
Buonasera. Good evening. First of all, I would like to congratulate Antongiulio and Michele. A classy, intelligent, fun documentary or film. Let me start by asking something about the social aspect of the life of Alberto Arbasino, because there is a moment when Masolino D'Amico says he actually didn't enjoy that, he didn't have fun. He went there just for social climbing or something, but he left the book. And is it true? Because I sort of disagree with that. I have the impression that he really enjoyed that and he loved that. What is your opinion about it?
Wow, that's a complicated answer. First of all, thank you, Antonio, and thank to the Casa Italia for inviting us. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm thinking of Alberto, who was so fond of New York City and America, and he will be so happy in his way. So probably not showing too much happiness, but. I don't know if he was happy to be in those villas. I mean, some are good, some are decadent, but it was work for him. I mean, especially for like foreign audiences, define Alberto Arbasino as the Italian Truman Capote, a writer that I love so much and that Alberto hated so much because the two writers like knew each other. Truman Capote used to live in Italy at some point in the 50s, and Alberto wrote an introduction to the Meridiano, the big Truman Capote reader in Italian. That was probably the most cruel thing that he ever wrote. Because I think he saw in Truman Capote some sort of mirror, and there were two writers that had similarities. There were two gay writers born in two small town kids who grew to celebrity and success. One in America, one in Italy. There were two writers who loved the high society. They had of course, Truman Capote had his own Park Avenue swans. Alberto had his own swans. They shared some swans, actually, because they were both... Marella Agnelli was their muse, and they fought for Marella. Alberto told me about some jokes that he did to Truman Capote. They phoned to his place and saying, "Oh, Donna Marella is waiting for you," or "Donna Marella on the phone," and the poor Truman was like running to the phone, and then I just put down the phone. So, but I think, it's a long story. I mean, it's all about like what writers do with like parties, and it's all. I mean, Proust was a master.
Another socialite.
Yeah, the social life was probably the center of the life of Alberto and Truman Capote, but as we can see in the movie, he wasn't always there partying, and it was work for him. So he spent a lot of time like alone working. Well. And if you read Fratelli d'Italia, that is his big book, there is like the most ferocious critic about those people and those social circles. So it wasn't like that. He wasn't like enjoying himself all the time. It was like taking notes. As Truman Capote said, what would you think? I'm working here, so I'm a writer. So it wasn't like the social.
I think there was also another element. Truman Capote came from a very low class, while Arbasino from...
Yeah, he came from this kind of...
provincial wealth.
Yeah.
Can we say that?
Like Montefoschi said, he was wealthy, so it was easy for him to travel and to know.
Thank you.
Yes, that's the difference. Actually, and he was wealthy, and he was able to travel and to know something that other people couldn't afford at the time, I think.
Yes, I would add that it wasn't just that he was wealthy, because he was not super wealthy. I mean, his father was a lawyer in this small town, and yes, they had the pharmacy, the famous pharmacy that for Italy is the dream of everyone, like having a pharmacy because you make a lot of money. But I mean, he wasn't like Jeff Bezos. So the difference, I think, was that for Italian standards, as you, Antonio, know very well, you have to always pretend to be a little poorer than you are, also, especially in the 50s, in the 60s, because like...
Especially in the culture world.
Yeah, if you were like a writer, you have to be like a communist and poor, and even if you are not. So Moravia was probably wealthier than Alberto. He was the son of a famous architect, an archistar, we would say today. But he pretended to be like a poor guy from the working class. So Alberto was the opposite, and that one of the reasons that he never got to the mainstream.
We'll go there.
Yeah.
A question for Antongiulio. At the end of the film, I was very intrigued by the fact that he wanted to have a funeral, a religious funeral, although he was an atheist.
Yeah, that's another thing that it's very difficult to understand. Actually, also the fact that the church was the church, his church, the one in Piazza del Popolo, che è la chiesa degli artisti. That's one of the things that he said in the last will and testament, but it was very strange for him, and I don't know. I didn't read the testament. Michele knows by heart.
We can do a public reading of the will.
He's a scholar of the testament.
No, because it's like a piece of art itself. I mean, because he kind of changed it like so many times as the novel. So
he was not loved, with the exception of Pasolini, by the intellectual, by the intelligentsia. How do you explain that?
How much time do we have? No, he wasn't loved, and I mean, he didn't do like so much effort to be loved, but he kind of was such a different, object in the Italian letters, because he was like wealthy, let's say. He was like he loved cars, sports cars. He used to drive a Porsche. And he loved parties.
So it's Pasolini, though.
Yeah, but Pasolini was like, it was a mirror of Alberto, because they knew each other, they were friends, they were rivals, and again, they were like two gay guys from small towns, from northern Italy, so they had a lot of in common, but. Alberto had, it's interesting because Alberto, for example, had very different, he wrote a lot about Pasolini, but sometimes he was sarcastic, sometimes he was cynical, but as we saw in the movie, when Pasolini was killed, at the beginning, Alberto said that, he was strongly against the all the plot, the political plot against Pasolini, and he said it was just like a gay killing as many. But then he had like a breakdown. So it's they had a very complicated relationship, and it's so fascinating. I mean, there are so many papers that still are there to be studied, and if I was a scholar, I will go to Florence, to the Gabinetto Vieussot, to read all the papers about Pasolini and Arbasino.
There was also a drawing of them drawn by Pasolini, right, of their two faces together.
Yeah, because Pasolini was also a painter, a good painter, and the both of them was like scholar of Roberto Longhi, who was the most important art historian. And Pasolini painted this painting, which is the double portrait of their two faces together, which is kind of creepy in a way, because they kind of looked similar. They had similar faces, so to see those two faces like together, it was a bit creepy. And
yeah, but that's another proof that they
they had this strong relationship. Yeah.
Carolina Invernizio.
Oh no. Carolina Invernizio è la casalinga di Voghera. I'm sorry that the mayor of Voghera read the piece. I don't know if you got the translation very well, but it's very fun, and it really casalinga di Voghera. It's an expression that we have always used in these years in Italy to describe that kind of person. And I think that's the genius of Arbasino, that he captures like a piece of society so well, and sometimes it's also mean, because and at the same time the Carolina it evolved the way we think about the casalinga di Voghera. And what makes me laugh also is that I took part of a TV show once, like 20 years ago, and we made dream come true, Il Treno dei Desideri, and we made a statue for the casalinga di Voghera. We paid for a statue in Voghera. And being in Voghera, we shot 3 days in Voghera, and it actually the 3 days rained all the time.
You could see it.
Yes, and so it's easy to believe that that atmosphere Arbasino escape, and that created also Carolina Invernizio
And there was also Valentino,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Valentino was like, and Arbasino were the two celebrities from Voghera, and it was interesting because they both moved to
Were they friends?
To Rome.
Yeah.
No, they weren't really friends, but they were from the same generation. There were two kids born in this middle class in Voghera, which has like I don't know 50,000 people, and they both moved to Rome, so they kind of knew each other. So I spoke to Giancarlo Giammetti many times, the longtime partner of Valentino, and I said, "Oh, come sta Alberto?" Because they kind of knew each other,
Yeah. Can you tell me, how did you meet him? You say that you became almost a stalker, but how did it start?
I started as a reader, I remember, and I went to those book presentations as a reader at the beginning. And I remember once I did what you never should do with a writer. So I stopped him and I told him, "Oh, Mr. Arbasino, I've read all your books." And he was surrounded by all his princesses, and he told me, "Oh, bravo, go on, continua così." And I was like, "Oh my God." And then, with a long story, because I met a lady in Rome, and her mother, I found out was the best friend of Alberto Arbasino. And she was like, "Oh, come to lunch. There are all these old people." And I'm always so bored with these old people, and the old people were Arbasino and Domietta, and they were all my mates together. So I went there like taking notes and taking pictures, and yeah. And then we kind of became not really friends, but I don't know. We had those lunches. We always did like Easter lunch, and it was fun. It was very fun.
The art historian Palacios, I think is the name, the Cuban, it's very funny, by the way. He says that at the end of the day, he remained a provincial man.
Yeah, that's.
Do you think that is a limitation or actually a virtue?
Well, I really, I mean, I was born in Rome, so I'm not provincial. Let's say that.
I was born in Velletri, near Rome. I win over everybody.
But it's so true that what he said that. I mean, I think that people that are born in a little village, they have something like Michele. He's not from Rome.
Should I reply? Should I reply?
And yes, I think that's something a force, an engine, something that makes you want more, something that makes you more ambitious. That's maybe little thing, but I agree with Palacio that that it's like
it's interesting because for a lot of people, like moving to Rome, it's like the most provincial place ever. I mean,
that's true.
It's also the charm of Rome is it's still in the 50s there. So I mean,
and also it's true what we say in the documentary that you can. I mean, from Romance, you still somebody that is not from Rome, even if you live there for years and you have made exceptional things. So it's a weird thing that about this.
I think that the best line in the film is Dometta.
Oh yeah,
Signora sarà lei.
Yeah.
And can you tell me about something about her? You met her. So.
Yeah, I met her many times, and at those Easter lunches, and she was always silent. And I remember I had her on my right, and I was like so scared because I remember she could say those kind of lines. So I was like, I had Alberto in front and Domietta here, and I remember her jewels because she was so snob that she was a millionaire, and she was a double principessa because she was born principessa, then she married a prince. And she was so unassuming, but she was wearing those big like Bulgari jewels and snakes, and she was always silent, but she could say like terrible things. I remember one Easter lunch, and we were like talking about. It was fun because they were all very old, so the conversation could be very like, oh, remember that theater, oh, it was so bad. Yeah, it was so bad. Yeah, it was so bad. Oh, it was so bad. I was like, yeah. And if you kind of introduce something new, they were like, oh, why you've been to the opera? I've seen this like in Rio de Janeiro in 1974, in Tokyo. Why you go to the opera today? It's all done. And she was like, so once they were having this long gossip about a lady, and she was like so silent all the time, so I was like checking if she was like still there. And then sometimes she was like, oh, she wears those shoes as a nurse. And it was the most terrible thing. And so it was like, and we ran home and taking notes of her.
But
and
how could you succeed in taking pictures? I mean, do they realize?
Because they were, I mean, it was also the before iPhone era, so I don't even know. I had a small Nokia, and but they were so in their own world that they couldn't notice me. I mean, I was not, no. But they weren't really interested in me, so I was like a fly, and I could see and take notes and everything.
I think it's time to take questions from the audience, if you have questions. Yes, please.
More about the smandruppate.
Smandrappate, it's a great word. I love that word. I love the way Adriana.
Use smandruppate.
Smandrappate. Smandrappate. Yes, a lot. Yes.
Is he coming from her?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
We don't have proof, but
from her or from Arbasino, we are not sure. I mean, we thought it was coming from Arbasino, but actually she says she was coming from her. So, but she's very. Mrs. Sartogo is very present. I mean, she likes to take the scene. So maybe I don't know.
Also, Arbasino was a great inventor of words, of catchphrases. You know, one of his kind of peculiarities was that he was a fan of Gabriele D'Annunzio, and he kind of brought a lot of things, super fun things about Gabriele D'Annunzio in an era where no one would write or study D'Annunzio. And I think he had some, I mean, D'Annunzio was a big inventor of like slogans, commercial slogans. He invented La Rinascente, the mall, il tramezzino, I vigili del fuoco, l'automobile. So I think there was this kind of line between D'Annunzio and Arbasino, who invented many words like la casalinga di Voghera, il tormentone, and many others.
But Smandrappata is also the sound. It's great, I think. It's very well.
It's very Roman, actually.
Yeah.
Roma also.
Yes.
Hi. I am very curious about the talk show.
Okay.
How, like, was that a common thing, just for context, or, and what do you think, like, why he did that?
The talk show was like 10 episodes, not prime time, but like at 9:30. So it's second.
It's still a cult.
It's still a cult, show. and actually Rai did a new version of that show with another writer a few years ago, but it was very different. It was not that brilliant, and the great thing was that, like, I don't know if you recognize, there were like the two major directors were Monicelli and Nanni Moretti. That was a piece of television that remains in years, because Monicelli says to Moretti that his movie is like nothing special, and it's cute, so cute, but nothing more than this. And it was great. It was another kind of television. It was the television in the 70s where it was divided in 3 channels, and the Rai 2, the second channel, when it was aired, it was a left-wing party, and it allowed a lot of experimentation. And but actually, the story was that he was not satisfied with the show because he did everything by himself.
Yeah, he had to do everything by himself. He always complained that the worst guest was Monica Vitti. Yeah, that was always like, oh, I'm coming. No, maybe I'm not coming. I'm coming. At the end of the day, she didn't go. So I hated, and the show was successful.
The show was successful. He didn't want to do the second season, but the show was successful.
Yeah.
And the people that you saw behind the host of the two hosts, the two people that were all friends that they brought, and they were famous people. I mean, if you're Italian, you can recognize famous journalists.
Susanna Agnelli con chi era?
Susanna Agnelli was against. It was a great debate because it was a great Lidia Ravera. Lidia Ravera was successful because of this novel Porci con le ali, and actually Susanna Agnelli, Vestiva la marinara, and she arrived in like in jeans, and I had I did the producer of this show that Rai made again, and we invited Lidia Ravera, and she says that she was pregnant and she bought a new tailleur for that show, so she arrived all elegant, and actually Susanna Agnelli was very casual.
There were like some terrible lines where at some point, because they both had these super successful novels. Susanna Agnelli wrote this memoir about the Agnelli family that was Vestivamo la marinara, and
Lidia Ravera,
Porci con le ali. And at some point, Lidia Ravera says, "Oh, but our novels are so similar. They're all about similar families." And Susanna Agnelli reply, not so similar.
Sorry guys, I've been asked how to translate smandrappate in English.
Oh, that's difficult.
Rundown? No.
Rundown, yes, it
Yeah.
translates craft, but
Scruffy.
it gives like a sense of like
I think it's
sloppy.
no. I think it's impossible. Even in Italian, I wouldn't.
It's
Even
something
in Italian, I would
Yeah.
be able to.
that it's not rigorous. How do you say rigorous?
Rotten, maybe? Rotten is too much.
Something not elegant.
Something like cialtrone in a way.
No, not really. Not really like that
No.
because it's more about not from you're coming from, but about you, how you behave and how you think.
Yeah, it's like pretentious but unserious in a
Yeah.
way,
Charlatan.
or ridiculous.
Other questions? Okay, my final question. Tell me something about the production. How difficult was to find money to make a film on Arbasino?
Okay, the difficult thing was working with Michele. No, for me, the production is that I met Michele in a bar. He was obsessed with Arbasino, and we knew each other. He knew my work, and we met.
Still, so we did the movie together.
And we still were together. And he involved me in this adventure, which was great. And already Mad Entertainment was very, very clever to believe in the project. And Zappi also believed in the project, but they gave a short amount of money, very small, and just for television. And then we won the Ministero, so other money, and then a bank of Voghera, and then so we put.
Very wealthy, very wealthy.
So we arrived in
And Luca Guadagnino loved the
Luca
project.
Guadagnino is on the project, yes. And I mean, Luca Guadagnino, Michele
Because he owns a farmacia, no, I'm kidding. Yeah.
La famiglia Sgarbi, certo. Before we leave,
L'intelligenza artificiale è tutto nell'etimologia di smandrappate.
Okay.
Tell us.
Yes, we missed this. First of all, AI doesn't know that smandrappata was created by Arbasino. And it says, non c'è un inventore certificabile. There is no inventor of this term. And it says that it's a term that incorporates several dialect expressions, and it would be synonymous would be trasandato, straccione, sbrindellato, malconcio, cencioso. And then I asked, how would you translate it into English? It refers to a person who could be shabby, unkempt, disheveled, scruffy, ragged, in rags.
Satisfied with that?
But the fact that AI doesn't know that Arbasino created it, I think...
Yeah.
Right now he didn't. Domani chiedo ancora. So if only this thing came from this evening...
You should call Sam Altman and tell him
and
about...
give him an update on smandrappato. There is a word created by Arbasino or in the Arbasino circle. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Grazie a tutti voi, grazie
Thank
Antonio,
Antonio,
grazie
grazie.
Michele.